So can today's announcements get its shares moving again? Let's ask Dan Ives. He's head of technology research at Wedbush. Great to have you here, Dan. Appreciate you coming in studio with us. Maybe let's just start with this question we started to get into a little bit last hour, but this competition with Google. You know, if Google can answer questions with Gemini really well and fast, and they're using their own chips and their TPUs, how does NVIDIA answer that? Yeah, look,
the reality is, I mean, NVIDIA's 2 to 3 years ahead of anyone, including Google. So look, with TPUs or even what OpenAI is going to come out with, I mean, there are some alternatives, but the reality is you want the gold standard when it comes to NVIDIA. Now, if you look at Meta and others, you can get, for every 10 chips that you want to get, you can maybe get 3 of them.
Wow.
So it speaks right now. We talk demand and supply is 12 to 1 for NVIDIA chips. But when it comes to Grok and what they're showing on inferencing, this is them saying, we're not losing that market.
Grok with a Q, not Grok with a K.
Grok with a Q, exactly. But this is basically, and that was from the acquisition, you know, in terms of essentially what they did. This is basically Jensen and NVIDIA saying that is going to be our market as well. And it speaks to a 3 to 4 trillion market opportunity they're going after, because right now it's their world, everyone else paying rent.
So this is like the Lollapalooza for chips and learning and inference chips, everything like that, which a Lollapalooza has a lot of different acts.
Sure.
But you're saying there's really only one act going on there.
Look, their third-rate chip, a restricted H200 in China, is still, 2 years ahead of Huawei?
Right. They're on the outstage.
Look, and look, they're on, I mean, going back to that, they're the mainstay. Everyone's waiting for when's Jensen coming out.
But it's really all about getting people to sign on and sign up for more NVIDIA chips.
Because once you're in it, you're not leaving.
You can't leave.
And it speaks to what they recognize where they are. And they'll talk about, Jensen will talk about at GTC, just saying how, like, demand continues to accelerate. You look at, like, the 500 billion that Christina talked about, I mean, that's probably closer to what, 600 to 700?
In terms of their order backlog.
In terms of the order backlog that they
Do you think he's going to talk about the backlog?
I mean, I think he's going to touch on it, but it speaks to this whole point where Street's giving, really, I think, minimal credit after what was just what I think of Michael Jordan-like quarter that they just had to what is actually happening on the AI demand story. And it just speaks to the CapEx. You got to follow the numbers. And the reality is that those CapEx dollars, the vast majority, it's coming to NVIDIA.
But I just want to get this, because it sounds like what you're saying is winning per force creates more winning. So there's this order book, but there's this whole other thing happening underneath here where when you bring somebody on, you're going to create more orders down the road.
Yeah, to put it like maybe in numbers, let's just say like 20, 30% is right now what they maybe like, they already have stamped.
Right.
But they're focused on what's the 70, 80% down the road. And that's really what the whole conference is about, is that when it comes to things like physical AI, autonomous robotics, I mean, that's really something that Jensen and NVIDIA are going after. And none of that is factored into the stock. It just speaks to our view, like you're in year 3 of an 8 to 10 year build out. And I just think a lot of that is not being factored into this stock. And I also think when it comes to software and the AI ghost trade and Anthropic and everything, I think it's being very significantly miscalculated and underestimated how software is going to play a huge role in the use cases.
Yeah, you're more bullish on that piece of it, yeah.
So not factored suggests there's a number in your head. At 185, what's not factored in?
I mean, I'd say $130 to $150 left is not factored into the stock. It's already like $300 base case.
What are they going to be, an $8 trillion company?
Look, I believe by 2027, $6 trillion. In terms of where this market is. Now, I get it right now in terms of like geopolitical, white knuckle period, New York City cab drivers, bearish on tech. But we will get to a point as the numbers play out, and NVIDIA, I say it's still a cheap stock, and like Jensen's going to come out. There's going to be no holds barred. I think you're going to see a very aggressive Jensen talking about this is our market.
Quickly on that,
Bill, and I'll start off with you on that $1 trillion forecast, which at first blush seems enormous, but then when you back away and think that the forecast through 2026 was $500 billion, doesn't seem that impressive.
$1,000 a year, their base pay. I'm going to give them probably.
Well, I think first and foremost, you have to look at the people who didn't believe Jensen when he cranked out the $500 billion number, and now we're here, we're questioning the $1 trillion number. I think you are either a glass half full person about AI or kind of neutral on it. There's not a lot of glass half empty folks, but in the end, the amount of tokens that are going to be required across consumers, across the enterprise, across startups, I think the $1 trillion number is pretty safe. I think we need to keep an eye on the amount of power generation that's going to be required in around the 2028 timeframe.
Dylan, what's your take on the forecast?
And they will be token manufacturers.
Yeah, the big thing that Jensen laid out here today is that it's not just the 5 major hyperscalers that are deploying AI across the world. It's actually this whole ecosystem of hundreds of companies. The real thing that he's doing here is laying the foundations for regular enterprises, startups, and sovereign AI companies across the world to deploy AI into every application. And that's been the real big challenges, for a lot of investors is, hey, okay, the 5 hyperscalers, they're turning on the money spigot. Are they going to turn it off? When are they going to turn it off? Now the question is has shifted to like, wow, there's all of these different companies that are actually spending money and there's real ROI. You're starting to see it with Anthropic's revenue adding $6-7 billion of ARR a month. But there's so many more firms coming online with revenue streaming in, and they've announced these coalitions and all these different pieces of software that help NVIDIA's customer base get widened.
Patrick, part of the job for Jensen Huang at this meeting has been presumably to persuade investors and people in the industry that it can dominate this next phase and answer the challenge to a lot of these sort of non-GPU related solutions and the other custom chips. So is he on his way to doing that? What more do we have to hear?
Big announcements here.
So I put out a note right before the show, and I said Jensen needs to make the case for heterogeneous computing across the different chips that he has to offer with one contiguous software that goes across it to decrease the amount of work it takes to use all of these two chips, because if you were using them standalone, it could be a big issue. And I do think he delivered today. And whether you're looking at training, whether you look at the disaggregation of inference, he talked about how he integrated Grok. He talked about a piece of software called Dynamo Inference that goes across all of these different silicon GPUs and LPUs and CPUs. So I thought it was a good message, and I don't see them losing traction here. That's for certain.
Are they going to be game?
Okay, and let's talk about GTC. So NVIDIA has its annual GTC conference that just kicked off yesterday. Jensen Huang delivering the keynote saying that the demand is there, demand is strong, talking up $1 trillion in demand by 2027. The question was this going to be a catalyst for NVIDIA? But take us through some of your takeaways, and then, then we can talk a little bit about the stock.
Well, we did see a little bit of a move to the upside. Actually, I think the market may have misinterpreted his comments at first, maybe some of the wirehouses, because we did see a massive spike getting close to the upside to around that 190-ish area, and we did see a pullback right after that, trading at around 183 at the close here. But Jensen Huang did project $1 trillion in cumulative AI chip sales through 2027, not in 2027. This is going to be driven by the Blackwell as well as the Rubin architecture here, and that obviously gave some other tech stocks a little bit of movement to the upside here, and they continue to actually kind of restructure themselves, or maybe refocus, let's say. They obviously command the GPU market, but they are now trying to expand more into the CPU market, which could actually provide a little bit more competition for companies like IBM as well as Intel. Intel did not really trade that great yesterday based on some of the comments that they released within this conference here. So an interesting... It's one of those situations where you could see a buy the rumor, sell the news type of an event. You didn't hear anything that was really any negativity coming out of this conference here. The market did hold up. Let's see if we actually have some follow through for today, though. We don't really have that much on the calendar outside of this conference that really could push these tech stocks higher outside of maybe some optimism around the geopolitical conflicts here. So overall, it's actually really interesting. I think you also mentioned as well the fact that they're trying to put data centers in the space. That was very unique. Yeah. Obviously, there has been kind of some chatter around that, even from Elon Musk. The biggest hurdle that they have right now, and their engineers are working on that, is there's no convection or even conduction within space. So how do you actually disperse of some of that heat when it comes to the data centers? That's the big hurdle that they have, but something that could be revolutionary if they're able to get it right.
Is GTC usually a catalyst for shares of Nvidia? Because I know you've been watching how they've been in this range for some time now, but could it be a latent catalyst?
It could be. Usually the biggest driver is kind of their guidance updates moving forward. If they kind of maybe allude to exceeding the streets kind of whisper expectations when it comes to revenue growth, especially in the following year, that could be a major driver for Nvidia. But I kind of look at this conference as more of a catalyst for other smaller stocks that might start having some partnerships with the company or may have actually some additional exposure. So that's really where a lot of the gains come from, not so much when it comes to Nvidia. And like I said, the $1 trillion number was a headline number, but at the end of the day, once the market kind of digested that, it seems like it's, for the most part, kind of on par with what analysts have already expected going into and through 2027.
Okay, and so we just talked about the space component, but here on the ground, there's also the development of a partnership between Uber and Nvidia, and this has to do with, obviously, the autonomous aspect of Uber vehicles. So take us through, I guess, some of the details on the headlines here, and then what does this tell us about where we are in the AI cycle?
Yeah, so NVIDIA is trying to get into the robotaxi business here, and it looks like they are going to power their robotaxis or partner with Uber in order to do so. So NVIDIA and Uber are going to be partnering. NVIDIA's software is really going to be leading the way. It's going to be rolled out in phases. Obviously, when we're looking at the training phase, that's going to be phase 1, and then they're going to have supervised rides as well as then full driverless level 4 autonomy here. So this is going to be over time. It looks like they are going to start off in Los Angeles as well as San Francisco in the first half of 2027, and then they're going to expand that out to 28 cities around the world by 2028, including North America, Europe, Asia, as well as Australia. So this will be a little bit of a challenge when it comes to companies like Waymo or Alphabet, for that matter, and others like Tesla that are already having a robotaxi fleet that they're trying to get up and running at scale. So an interesting type of dynamic here. I think one of the themes that you heard yesterday is about physical AI or robotics, leveraging artificial intelligence within the robotics space. They do believe that that's going to be the next frontier, and they're trying to get ahead of that and really leveraging their software in order to try to corner that market rather than just some of the hardware advances that we've seen over the last couple of years.
And with regard to NVIDIA, and you say the potential for a catalyst coming out of GTC for tech, Dan Ives put out this statement saying it's a white knuckle period for the technology industry. He mentioned that he doesn't see NVIDIA ceding market share to Google or Meta. What's your thought on that?
I haven't seen a day or haven't experienced a day where Dan Ives is not super bullish when it comes to the technology space, so it kind of makes sense. As they continue to evolve their business. Getting into the CPU space, if you think about it just from a consumer standpoint, the tangible addressable market is probably a little bit higher over time. And if they're able to get ahead of some of these other companies like an Intel or IBM, you could see maybe an additional tailwind for them over the long term. So I kind of agree with him at this point in time. And I think we need to start kind of focusing on how these companies are going to get into their own kind of silos or their own industries. Meta or even like Alphabet, for that matter, is not really trying to command the whole space. They have their own little niche, and I think over time you're going to see them really perfect their own spaces and let other companies really be the execution masters, if you will, in other industries. I think that's going to be the case for not only artificial intelligence, but also...
I mean, Dylan, there's so many competitors out there when it comes to this next phase of compute power, inferencing, competitors who are developing their own chips, Amazon with Cerebras. I mean, there are a multitude of quote-unquote competitors where the hyperscalers could be spending their money and not necessarily on a Grok plus Vera Rubin chip.
So there's a really important thing that Jensen's doing, and it's attacking them from two ways. One is by developing all these different chips, right? The Grok acquisition, creating a few different chip architectures of his own. The other one is to actually lock up capacity in the entire market, right? NVIDIA has locked up over 60% of the capacity this year in long-term contracts alone, and they're buying more on top of that. And as you look at what they're negotiating in the market today, there's over $250 billion billion of wafers, of memory, of substrates, of PCBs, of networking equipment that they're going to sign this year, which is going to prevent most of these startups from getting any reasonable amount of supply. Great, you can make a good chip, even if their chip is better than NVIDIA, which is a really tough problem. If they do have a better chip than NVIDIA, great, I can buy 10,000, I could buy 100,000, I can't buy millions, tens of millions, which is what Jensen's setting his supply chain up for, right? To manufacture tens of millions of AI chips and connecting through all the way from, the silicon where TSMC and all these other players, the memory vendors sit, all the way upstream to, hey, all the cloud companies. I'm working with you and I have the data centers picked out for where these GPUs are going to land next year. And then all the way to the end customers with all these different labs, AI native companies, et cetera, right? It's getting the entire supply chain there. If someone has a better chip, which is a tough challenge with how many different chips NVIDIA's making and all the innovation they're doing. But even if they do, can they even get supply? So it's a two way of attacking them.
I'm here to tell you that right now where I stand, a few short months after GTC DC, 1 year after last GTC, right here where I stand, I see through 2027 at least $1 trillion. Now, does it make any sense? And that's what I'm going to spend the rest of the time talking about. In fact, we are going to be short. I am certain computing demand will be much higher than that. And there's a reason for that. So the first thing is, we did a lot of work in the last year. Of course, as you know, 2025 was NVIDIA's year of inference. We wanted to make sure that not only were we good at training and post-training, that we were incredibly good at every single phase of AI, so that the investments that were made, investments made in our infrastructure, could scale out for as long as they would like to use it. And the useful life of NVIDIA's infrastructure would be long, and therefore the cost would be incredibly low. The longer you could use it, the lower the cost. There's no question in my mind. NVIDIA systems are the lowest cost infrastructure you could get for AI infrastructure in the world. And so the first part was, last year was all about AI for inference, and it drove this inflection point. Simultaneously, we were very pleased last year that Anthropic has come to NVIDIA, that MSL, Meta SL, has chosen NVIDIA. And meanwhile, and as a collection, as a group, this represents 1/3 of the world's AI compute, open source models. Open source models have reached near the frontier, and it is literally everywhere. And NVIDIA, as you know, today, we're the only platform in the world today that runs every single domain of AI across every single one of these AI models in language and biology, in computer graphics, computer vision, in speech, proteins and chemicals, robotics and otherwise, edge or cloud, any language. NVIDIA's architecture is fungible for all of that, and we're incredible for all of that. That allows us to be the lowest cost, the highest confidence platform. Because when you're building these systems, as I mentioned, $1 trillion is an enormous amount of infrastructure. You have to have complete confidence that the $1 trillion you're putting down will be utilized, would be performant, would be incredibly cost effective, and have useful life for as long as you could see. That infrastructure investment you could make on NVIDIA, you could make with complete confidence. We have now proven that.